Doctors of Reddit, what are some of your worst experiences with anti-vaxxers? I'm not a doctor, but I'm a veterinary technician. I've had someone ask me if vaccines are going to give their dog autism. My stepmom is a pediatrician at a major hospital here in Italy. She told me the worst thing she saw was her anti-vaxxer mom wailing and screaming after her 12-year-old son died of meningitis. The mother didn't let the son get the meningitis vaccine. Stepmom told me as soon as she walked in the room, after getting called for an emergency, all the son's limbs had gone necrotic and he was bleeding from practically every hole in his body, including his eyes, since his blood couldn't congeal anymore and was like oil leaking all over. She told me she felt so pissed at the mom when she received the information that the mom hadn't vaccinated her son at all, and this was all preventable. Not a doctor, but was previously in a position where I hired RNs. One interview concluded shortly after learning that this registered nurse I was speaking with was wholeheartedly against vaccinations and went on to paint pretty much all of Western medicine as hocus pocus. I think she takes the laughter is the best medicine phrase literal. I just wanted to say, why the F did you go to school for this profession? And did you not learn a damn thing? Believe I shared this before on Reddit. I had a 7-year-old showing signs of a serious illness. Her teachers initially noticed it before anyone else. The child had been sick for a few days, that turned into a couple weeks. The teachers told the parents over and over something was wrong. The parents ignored the signs and claimed it was nothing bad, or it was a cold, something minor, etc. They finally came to me and the child showed signs of measles. Within about 10-15 minutes I indicated that this is not a cold and this seemed to be measles, based on what they verbalized to me and what I saw. To confirm, I examined the child's inner cheek and did a full body exam where she, the child not the parents, pointed out a rash, both confirming measles. The parents indicated that they did not believe in vaccines because their previous doctor told them it was unnecessary as long as the child ate healthy and stayed active. It was a family friend who worked in naturopathic medicine, not a licensed doctor. After making the diagnosis and having a very tough conversation and informational session with the parents, I provided them with prescriptions to help with the measles and bring as much comfort as possible to their child. I had to break down that their child 1. Cold infected children and families with a very dangerous but preventable disease. 2. Cold had permanent brain nerve damage, and 3. Could have ducking died. I didn't curse at them, but boy did I want to. The child had measles for at least a month before seeing me. To show how serious this is, measles does not show signs or symptoms in some cases for 10 to 14 days. So because they refused to vaccinate their child, at least 2 to 3 weeks of exposure to other kids and teachers went by. Somehow they were able to bypass school district requirements for getting vaccines. They did not have a religious exemption. Went to a chiropractor one time to fix some lower back pain. They had posters all over about how harmful vaccines are and that having your back adjusted regularly, even as an infant, could help fight off those kinds of diseases. I asked the receptionist if they actually believed that, and she gave me a 10-minute lecture trying to justify it. I just looked and said, remove me from the patient list, because that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. There was an anti-vax mom who brought her kid into the ER and demanded that her kid be roomed right away and seen first because he couldn't be around all these sick kids. My dad's a doctor. He told me that once a mother came into his office with her son for a checkup and he recommended that her 6-year-old get vaccinated for measles, mumps, rubella because she hadn't vaccinated him yet. Just 4 weeks later she came in with her son and he had measles. She yelled at my dad for not curing him in the hour and a half they were there. She got angry and went to the ghetto pediatrician who sold her the same medication, and later she still didn't vaccinate her son because aluminum and toxins. That's exactly how my dad said it. Not a medical doctor, but I'm a university professor of biological sciences. I was teaching a course this semester that covers how to appropriately conduct research in a variety of ways, as well as how to perform personal, not publication worthy, research. I remember hearing one of my students say that they were anti-vax at the beginning of the semester. Didn't really bother me because I realized that they were also part of one of my courses where I just so happened to have a lecture planned to analyze Wakefield's MMR autism paper, find points of major error bias, determine the severity of the errors, how to fix them, and discuss his methodologies and results, while being compared to the dozens of studies released after his that utterly destroyed his paper. After that lecture, I never saw the student again. Unfortunately, this taught me that when you deal with this group of people, there isn't really a way of convincing them otherwise. They have been brainwashed, and they like their confirmation caves. Apostrophe. I'm a veterinarian. Every day I have to convince some reluctant pet owner that I'm not in the pocket of big rabies, and I'm making recommendations for preventative care based on state law, medical research and good judgment. The memorable people are the ones who listen to me. My advice saves their pet's life in one way or another, and they are still pissed about it. Your dog definitely needs a Lyme vaccine. Why? It's not perfect. Your last dog died of Lyme nephritis like 2 months ago. This vaccine is 93% effective. Some people. 19-year-old comes on a gurney, deep coma, respiratory depression, foam issuing from the lips. Mother frantic. EEG reveals the pattern typical of subacute sclerosing panencephalitis, a sequela of common measles. It's preventable, people, but not curable. They buried him a few weeks later. Yeah, I'd rather my child get sick naturally than be exposed to chemical vaccines. A parent, after I spent 10 minutes describing to her in graphic detail all of the ways preventable diseases could maim and kill her infant. My mom did not vaccinate me as a kid. As of 2 days ago I officially have rubella. I'm not a doctor, but I do have mild autism. I made the mistake of saying that I was autistic in a public place to my friend. This lady heard and came up to ask if I was vaccinated. I said that I was, and she had the most triumphant look on her face. I realized my mistake and left right away with my friend. I'm not a doctor, but I have a story that I'm pretty sure that fits here. We had neighbors that have become lifelong family friends. They have a daughter the same age as my sister, and she got diagnosed with autism shortly after getting her MMR. A couple months after her diagnosis, the paper came out saying vaccines caused autism, and the mom believed it. It was new information. No one really was sure what to believe. Anyway, fast forward 4 years and the mom is pregnant again. She nosed getting her new baby vaccinated with the MMR. She did, because, in her words, I'd rather have another autistic child than one in the ICU. The new baby is completely typical, and she now doesn't believe in the anti-vax sheet. My point is, at even the height of the autism being caused by vaccine scare, she was smart enough to get her kids vaccinated, and I will never understand why people don't protect their kids as well as herd immunity. Pediatrician here. As a medical student, I watched a baby die from rotavirus BC. Mom thought vaccines cause Alzheimer's. Yeah, not autism, Alzheimer's. And she didn't think he needed to go to the hospital when he hadn't kept down a feeding for 12 hours, because sometimes kids just do that. My current winner is a mom who refuses vaccines for her kids because they cause autoimmune disorders. Her 2 sisters have chronic Lyme and her brother has scoliosis, all due to those nasty vaccines. Oh, and her grandpa and dad both died from heart attacks because they had the flu vaccine the previous season. All these autoimmune disorders in one family. I just don't know what to do. She likes to bring me articles from Mercular and Health Nut News to prove her point. While discussing vaccines with them on one time and bringing up my experience working with the immunocompromised population, she said, I don't care if someone else's kid has cancer. That's their problem, not mine. And that right there is a huge part of the problem: selfishness. I vaccinate my children not only for their own health, but for the health of others. Had a patient come to the hospital for possible heart attack. I asked if they had gotten a flu shot or the pneumonia vaccine. They went into a long rant about how vaccines are poison and they don't take any medication because they swim in the ocean and it purifies all the toxins that they acquire. Then they started having chest pain, so I gave them a nitroglycerine pill. They spat it out because they hated it. Well, You don't take your meds for high blood pressure and high cholesterol, you will have a heart attack. So not just anti-vax, but fully anti-medicine and science. Edit. Yes, the pneumonia vaccine is a thing. Technically called the pneumococcal vaccines, which protects from the bacteria Streptococcus pneumoniae. Their use can prevent some cases of pneumonia, meningitis, and sepsis. The hospital asks everyone over 65 if they have had one. Also, this person did leave AMA the next morning. And yes, nitroglycerine is an explosive, but smaller and less concentrated, is a vasodilator that helps with chest pain related to heart blockages. After I sent out invites to my kid's birthday party, I found out one of her friends from dance was unvaccinated. My daughter's best friend is in remission from leukemia and is immunocompromised. An unvaxxed kid could kill her. I uninvited the dance kid and very nicely explained the situation. Her mother loses her shit and tries to get us kicked out of the dance school they attend. The dance school owner is an older lady and had no idea there were idiots these days that didn't vax, so she implemented a new rule that students had to be up to date and the unvaxxed kid had to find a new dance school. I felt bad for the kid, but her mother is a sociopath. Herd immunity saves lives when it comes to kids fighting cancer. I'm not a doctor, but I work in an urgent care clinic. I had a mom come in that complained about her son having nasty eye infections been lasting several weeks. She was vehemently against vaccinations, and when I asked if she had been giving her son over-the-counter meds, she said, well, I read online that breast milk would work, so I've been just pouring it in his eyes and I don't know why it's not working. Edit, a word. I went to a school that is known for its nursing program, so we had a lot of student nurses and RNs who would come back from their internships and jobs with anti-vaxxer stories. The worst one by far was a student who met a mother, who also happened to be in nursing school, that explained that she would not be vaccinating any of her children, and was mad she had to get a tuberculosis vaccine to work in a hospital. The student spent about 30 minutes trying to explain to this mother that she could easily kill her kids, to which she told her, at least they'll die naturally and not of mercury poisoning. Edit, the mother was confusing a TB test with a TB vaccine. Pharmacist here. I don't get a whole lot of pushback. Most common is a fear of needles. All of my patients are 18 or older. I have had a few loons with a mind control conspiracy and a few. Vaccines do nothing but cause problems and I can tell you all about it. My staff and I laugh at them after they walk away. Then I die inside cause it is becoming more prevalent. Standard stuff really. Had a kid on a ventilator with a preventable illness at a major research hospital in California. The mom was anti-vaccine. The kid began to deteriorate, and the mom spent a lot of time reaching out to her anti-vax community. One visited her in the hospital and said, honey, there was nothing you could do. I lost it at that point. Edit, by lost it, I mean that I had to physically leave the unit before saying or doing something unprofessional. I didn't say anything to the mom at the time. The kid recovered. Before they left, the IQ had a long talk with the mom about vaccines, and she agreed to do more research. God, I hope that woman and those like her come to their senses. I commented on a blatantly false post about vaccines on Facebook. Something about mercury in vaccines, I think. Now there's only mercury in the flu shot, and you can request a dose without it. She sent me an article on how God doesn't want you to vaccinate children. She said she felt like God was leading her to spread anti-vaxx information. Yikes. Pretty sure God would want less dead kids, but okay. Well, we do have a measles epidemic around here every few years or so. Children die. It's getting worse. But I do believe the worst was my mother, pediatrician, coming home worried one day because Child Protective Services are looking into her. Why? She diagnosed an unvaccinated child with pertussis. Turned pale, told the mother she is too immediate telly to go in infectious ward. Called it in, like you do with most of these disease, just procedure. Anti-H. The mother was never registered at a hospital. She just sank back into a minority part of town. I don't think my mother has still seen those patients again. It's likely the child survived, or there would have been some sort of murmur. But yeah. Still a medical student, and the story comes from a professor. A woman had given birth and declined vaccinations. She also declined the vitamin K injection, which she perceived to be a vaccination. The oral form was offered, which she declined as well. She said, "We've decided to let the Lord protect our child. Her baby had a rare genetic condition that resulted in a brain bleed, which would have been prevented by the vitamin K injection. The baby suffered permanent brain damage. The parents did not change their mind about vaccinations afterwards." Edit. Just to clarify, vitamin K injection is not a vaccination. Vitamin K is important for effective blood clotting, and newborns can't make their own. Adults can't either, but our gut bacteria and diet help us out.